I'm Katie Burke here, and I'm talking to Sharn. Today we are talking about the holy work of motherhood and specifically postpartum, because we have another woman. I think we're going to dig into birth and the pregnancy and birthing process. But Sharn, what I'm really excited about is talking about postpartum, because that, I think, is something that, and you mentioned before we even got started, really needs a platform to be spoken about really authentically. Yeah, so thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you spend your days, what your journey has been like to motherhood. I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Oh, wow. So that's loaded. So I'm a mother of 4 little goddesses, ranging from the age of 9 to 17 months. So you can imagine that my day is just full of children, right? But aside from that, I'm a birth doula. I'm a postpartum, what we call a mother roaster, which we'll speak about a little bit more. I'm an energy worker. I do Reiki. I delve into herbs, so there's lots and lots of different facets to me, but essentially it's, at this time in my life, it's all revolving around motherhood, not just birth, but that crazy deep time that comes after, and it lasts for a long time.
Yeah, it does. I had no idea. I had no idea what I was getting into.
Oh, right. No, right?
You know?
You have to ride the waves.
Yeah. Did you have any idea how powerful the, I guess I'll call it initiation into motherhood, how powerful that was?
Well,
or was going to be? You could probably know now, but did you know as you were going through it?
No, and with my first child, I didn't really ever process it either, because I was 22 years old. And I was partying and just being 22 and working hard and playing hard. And then I found out that I was halfway through a pregnancy. I was 20 weeks when I found out that I was pregnant with Isabella. So there was a whole lot of processing and coming to terms with something that I wasn't expecting. And then when she was born, I had a beautiful birth, the way that I wanted it to be. But I was still not in this space of accepting that I was a mother for a while after I had her.
Oh, yeah.
It took me until I had my second baby and realizing how lonely it can be. Afterwards, I was now in a different country after I had my second baby, Esme. I'd moved to Canada by that point. And it was just a strange period of time because my husband wasn't at home and I didn't have family around me, and I didn't really have a huge support system. I did have a few, but not huge. And that was at the point where I started to really go deeply within myself and start asking universe and started to read and figure out what it was that I was needing in my life. And even then, I didn't realize that what I needed was a strong harem of women around me. I needed this system, this circle, and I wasn't getting it. So I sat in that still throughout the postpartum of my second baby. Not ever going deep into postpartum depression, thankfully. But that was probably the time in my life where I really experienced what it is to be lonely after having a baby.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That is all too common.
It is, but we don't always even recognize that that's what it is. So for me, what came up was I just wanted to be social, I wanted to be out, and I wanted to still do a bit of partying, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I wasn't getting down to the source of what I needed.
Yeah.
With the pregnancy of my third baby, this is when I became a doula. And I was on a whole different path into my own spirituality and who I am myself. And that was when I started to realize how important it is not just to support a woman in pregnancy and in birth, but the postpartum period. I started to get a good sense of what it is that we really needed. And by this time, I was gathering with goddesses monthly and celebrating solstices and equinoxes and monthly gatherings. And I was really starting to get a good idea of what it is to have strong women around me who can not save you, but lift you when you need them, and just accept your shadows, right? Because we all try to hide from that, woman mothers especially.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still, I'm still struggling with a little bit of that. I'm struggling with combining, and I just made a video about this. This is very relevant for me, like now, like this week, right now, is combining this service that I want to bring with being a mother and like fusing the two because they are the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I did watch your video on that, and that was so powerful for me because I was like, yeah, that is exactly it. We can't separate the two; they are fused.
Yeah.
You have a daughter as well, and it's just as relevant when you have a boy. But when you have these little women that you're bringing up, it's so important that we bring it back to what it always was, which is you're creating a system for them. They are seeing this from birth, from infancy. Mm-hmm. They will not, when they get to the ages that we are, when we had our children, it won't be alien to them anymore. They know what it's like to sit in this energy. You know, it's so important, and I completely agree with you. They're not two different entities that need to be created separately. That they have to be brought together.
Yeah. And it's something that I knew, but I wasn't taking advantage of. And I'm sure you see this with your children. I see it through your eyes with your children, is that they are coming to the planet at this time as such brave spiritual masters themselves. And one of the things that I think is at least, it's not, I don't want to say it's challenging, but it's a new way for my mind to work, is to really honor the spiritual master in my little toddler and and learn from her and see what gifts she has to offer right now, because she's such a pure channel for energy to come through her. So do you see your children in that way? Is that something that you are able to tap into? To kind of keeps me sane now that I see her that way.
Yeah, and I do, and I see it in everybody's children. It's I think that's my place in the world, is to work with children in one way, shape, or form. But yeah, you know, it's a lot easier for us as mothers to see these babies come into the world as a light, and we want to keep everything pure around them. Everything is organic. Everything you put into them, on them, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want anybody to hold them too long, because you don't want them contaminated. Really, it's kind of how you feel. You're putting a bubble around them.
Totally true. So true, yeah.
And then you kind of start to step out of that, and they get into toddlerhood, and they start to, like, it's not breastfed poop anymore. They've got, like, grown-up ones, and they get dirt on their face, and you start to see this purity as if it isn't there any longer, and it is. What's coming forward more now is their voice. Yeah. You don't look at their eyes anymore to see their spirit. You watch them and you hear them, and you watch them, their stumbles, their physical stumbles, and you think, oh, they're just getting bigger. They're not. They're expressing all of their spirit just in a whole different way. Mm-hmm. And I think it's such a gift for us to have these children who are coming forward, and they're so strong in every way.
Yeah.
And they want to walk beside us. But yeah, I completely hear what you're saying. I think I felt the same way as well. How am I going to be Sean still when I have children? How am I going to bring my gift to the world? Well, my gift to the world partly was them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's such it's personally a deep realization for that to really sink into me, is that, oh, she's part of the work. She's part of the gift, right? That I am creating and that I'm putting out there, and she wants to be, and I'm just speaking for Lincoln specifically. Like it was a different experience for me to realize her volunteering.
Yeah.
You know? It kind of took me back a little bit. So really magical. So anyways, I would love to maybe talk a bit more about postpartum in the really early, like, post-birth, maybe like first 6 months, you know, when it's really tender as a mother. What are you seeing? What would you like to see more of? Like, or just what are some of the first thoughts that come to mind when I bring up that time for mothers?
So this woman has been in her psychic state through pregnancy. She gives birth, whether she knows it or not. This is what she was open, right?
Yeah.
All the way through pregnancy, she's being told open, 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 open. Her mind's open, her heart's open, her body is open.
Yeah.
This baby is born, and very rarely does somebody say, you're done. Very rarely does somebody put that switch across and whisper in her ear, you're done, come back. Because she's just gone somewhere to get her baby, right?
Right.
So this woman is left in this very raw, open, vulnerable state. She's open energetically and physically. And yet the busyness is around her. The focus is on something else, but never on her.
Yeah.
So this openness and rawness that she's left with is a coolness also. Her body's kind of left cold. Nobody anymore is stepping in to come back in and bring that back together, to warm her and to help seal her and close the bones. Anciently, it was called closing the bones. And that is what I feel like we're really missing now. Nobody is bringing to her spiced soups, warming drinks. Nobody is asking her to rest and lay with her baby and allow her body to seal. Nobody is coming to her with Benkang belly binds or anything or energy healing and helping her to close those areas back. And this is where postpartum depression starts to creep in. Because there's so much going on then. Her body is cool, like we said, and she has the love just isn't being poured her way. And she's grieving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is not understood, that a woman is grieving. Sometimes she's grieving because there's no baby in her belly anymore. Sometimes she's grieving because she is overwhelmed. And sometimes she's grieving because she doesn't know what the next step is. Sometimes she's grieving because she doesn't know how she's going to be a mother and how she's going to do all the things that she wants to do.
Right.
I would really like to, it comes back to a village, right? It comes back to taking it to those days where there were people around her who really understood that she needed time and warmth in so many different ways. That's where my job as a mother roaster comes in. That's what a mother roaster is. It's somebody who, it could, once upon a time, it would have been the grandma or the auntie or the sister, somebody in the close proximity who would come in and tend to that mother and treat her like a goddess. Yeah. So much work.
It is. So how, I'm trying to think from which point I want to speak to, because I know there's going to be listeners who will have babies and more babies, but there's also listeners who might feel more of a pull towards the advocacy and the actual, like, that's what I will raise my hand and I will do that. I want to do that work. I want to help, put some service into doing that. So I want to speak to like both of them, but let's start with the women who want to start doing that work.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I want to speak to them.
Is there any? Okay, so let me get in here. So you have to come at this from a place of love, not from a place of wanting to give infinite knowledge.
Thank you. Yes.
There's a lot of people that want to help, but what they're given is opinion. And as much as that can be helpful sometimes, mothers have to be in a space where they're asking for that too. And that takes time. So whoever it is that wants to do this work has to have patience and has to have a listening ear and not just a good voice. And people want to do things for women that have had babies. They really do. Everybody wants to help in some way, shape, or form. So just understanding that the way that you can help is by literally being the servant. Yeah. The mother, very often, I think I'll just go back for a second to a birth. It's like when a woman has a birth plan in sometimes a hospital in their home. In a hospital, I think it was a lady called Leslie Everest, or it may have been somebody else I was listening to, but they were saying in a hospital very often women are treating themselves as servants and speaking to the higher powers, the powers that be there. And at home they're not. They're writing out birth plans where they're the queen speaking to servants. And that's what these people who are stepping forward to help these women need to be. They need to serve. They need to be servants. And just be willing to serve in whatever way the woman needs. Yeah. So all the warming things that we just spoke about, that's a whole philosophy. And there's so many different ideas around that. But more than anything, it just comes to having an open heart and be willing to listen.
Yeah.
And let the woman rest, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how did you prepare with your last baby? How did you set yourself up for a successful postpartum experience?
Oh, I absolutely set myself up for the first time in my life because
I could feel that. I could feel that because I followed your pregnancy along because we were pregnant. I think I gave birth just a month or less before you to Lincoln. So it was really fun to follow because you were just right behind me, like right behind me. So and it sometimes felt like right where I was. So so I was so blessed to follow that on Facebook and see what you were sharing and what you were doing. So I want to hear all the details about how you set yourself up for a better the best postpartum experience you've had so far.
Well, for the first thing, I realised what it felt like to not do that. So after the birth of my third baby, I had a home birth, and the day after it was her eldest sister's birthday. And I ran around and I'd had a wonderful birth, but I just didn't give myself any time. And by day 3, I looked at myself in the mirror after having all these young little 7-year-old girls sleeping over, and I literally looked like I'd been run over by a bus. I was white and dark-eyed, and it really did come, right?
I can only imagine, yeah.
It was very shocking to me to see myself in that state, and I stood up in the shower on day 3 after having Ivy, my third, and I felt like my insides were going to come out of me. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a physical thing because I'd had my birth with her was an hour long. It was because my energy was gone.
Yeah.
And physically, the blood loss was there and stuff. So with Hazel, I thought, I'm going to give myself a week. A week is not too much to ask. I'm going to be a mother for the rest of my life. So the first thing was I set up boundaries. I told everybody that would listen that I was not going to be accepting visitors. And that's hard for people.
That is hard to do. I'm so proud of you that you did that.
I wish everybody would, honestly. Yeah. It's that everybody wants to be around this new little light that came to the world because they glean something from it. But I was not going to have it. So I put something out on Facebook actually saying, I know that you've all been excited to follow my journey, but this is just to let you know that I'm going to be honouring myself and my family's transition. I'm going to take a week. You will see photographs. And after that, we'll open the house. Yeah. So I'd made a clear boundary before she was even born that this was going to happen.
And a week is not long. It's not.
4 weeks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, It's not long. It's gone like that. Mm-hmm.
But a week is feasible for people to say to their partner, not to work, or to get a family member in, I need you here for a week.
It makes a big difference, yeah.
Yeah, the longer you can do, the better. But usually, especially if you've got other children, longer than that can be more difficult, right? Mm-hmm. If it's your first baby, I would say please just get into bed and take off your shirt and smell this baby and let that baby smell you and just revel in that because it's magic.
Yeah.
Right? It's what gets the oxytocin flowing in the body. It's what helps your wounds to heal. It's what helps your milk to flow into your body. It's what gets you past those days 3 and 4 where hormones are soaring and you just feel like you're on the point of breaking. Mm-hmm. It's those moments that allow you to rest physically, mentally, energetically, spiritually, everything in bed with somebody. Your child is going to heal you, nobody else, right?
Yeah.
So I would say to do that more, first and foremost, dedicate some time.
Yeah.
And you can prepare physically and practically. You can go to Ayurvedic recipes, produce warming foods and drinks and have them frozen.
Yeah.
You can nourish your body with herbs, with nettles and red raspberry leaf and red clover and all these things that are going to put iron and goodness and plant life and vital energy back into your body. But to me, there is nothing that's going to touch just having a safe space around you to sink into being a mother.
Yeah.
There are going to be times where you just really want to cry too, and you can't do that when you have people watching you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a really tender time. It's a really tender time. And if you can't cry, I'll speak from my experience. When there are times that I couldn't cry, I got angry, and then and I didn't want to be angry. It was not a time where I needed to be angry. There was no reason for that. It was only because when my needs weren't being met is when that would come through, and that's hard. That's hard when you're still so open. Really, really hard. So, yeah, how are you nourishing yourself now?
Well, that's a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try, and I do, but I don't know if you've been following the way that I'm very vocal on Facebook also. I'm an open book, and I've been quite honest with the fact that I'm kind of like this right now, I'm trying to serve women the best that I can, serve the general public by showcasing the way that things unfold in my life.
By your embodiment, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it comes with discomfort, but usually I know that I'm writing something or putting out a message there because it's channeled, because I'm a conduit and I have to put forward this information. It's going to help somebody somewhere. But I get into a struggle of wanting to do this. I'm not a one-man, there's so many things that I want to be a part of. And I feel like when I'm drawn to do that, I must do it because there's a reason why I've agreed to it. You know what? Is that making sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So I do all of this stuff, and then I've got 4 children who need me on so different levels. My 9-year-old is going to be 10 actually in a few weeks' time. She's going through her own female thing. She's going through her own hormonal changes, and her needs are very different to what my 6 and 3 and 1.5-year-olds are. So I'm constantly being pulled in different directions that way. I have a husband who I know that I need to nurture too. He nurtures me the best he can. I have my work. The only thing that I can do, I take baths a lot. Mm-hmm. That's my place to release. So my kids and my husband know that full moon, new moon, mummy's going to be gone for an hour. And I go to my bathtub with salt, oils, some sort of smudge, maybe a glass of wine if I feel like it, my journal, and I cry.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and sometimes it's ugly crying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this full moon, it's a nightly ugly cry right now. It is a nightly releasing with crying, and it's not even the full moon yet, but I'm really feeling that right now, and it's what's keeping me fresh to come and do these interviews is that nightly release right now of I don't know what it's being I don't know, but it just starts and I just go
sometimes you don't even need to know what it's about, right? The point is that as women, as humans actually, human experience to analyze everything that we do. But I think that we know that we're in our divinity and we know that we're in our essence when we really don't explain why something is. We just do it. We just follow our cues, which is what birth is, right?
Yeah.
Which is what all of that stuff is. It's what postpartum is actually. Women get upset often when they feel like they're doing something wrong, when they're following cues, when they're not in a place of explaining, they're just doing. It's rare that they feel like they are doing something wrong because they're just following whatever it is
that feels best, right?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, this has been a theme of the day is trusting the sensations, and something I've started claiming only in the last week is that one of my I am statements is I am sensation. That is a very sharp tool in my toolbox is my sensation, especially as a woman. So that's something I'm personally claiming that, and starting to really utilize that as well too. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I love that. There's so much around that. I could go into a whole different topic. I'm just going to say so. But yeah, it's to me, that's such a self-nourishing tool to just sit in whatever it is that you're in. So uncomfortable sometimes, right? But just that, to go back to what you were asking me, how do I nourish myself? It's to do more and more and more of that and not try to stifle anything and push things down. When I was younger, I had issues around eating. None of that was ever to do with being fat or any of that. It was always to do with stifling, pushing down feelings and sensations, which naturally come up, especially as you're growing. We're always transforming. But at that stage in my life, in late teens, you're really growing. And it was just a constant stifle. It makes us sick.
It does. Absolutely. Resisting our feminine flow. I can speak to that from experience. Is very, it will make you ill. Like, it will make you physically start to shut down.
Yes. And that's a knock-on effect, because especially when we're doing the work we we kind of almost start to rely on our messages that we're getting just coming through us. That even, there's blockages there too. When we're pushing, you push everything down. It's not, you can't pick and choose what you stifle, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and unless we keep that clear, right? Unless we're moving and letting those flow through us, I think you're absolutely right. It blocks that channel. Never thought of it that way. Yeah, I think that's absolutely my experience too. Let's see, what else can we talk about with motherhood? There's so much, but I feel so drawn to you because I see you honoring the whole cycle, not just chunks of it, but you really do seem to have such a grounded, relatable, human perspective of the whole cycle, not just certain months or certain ages, but I love seeing your entire spectrum of everything that you're handling. Is very inspiring to me.
Thank you. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Just one thing that I do like to try and point out, and because I have people say these things to me, and it's lovely, it's inspiring, it makes me want to continue being vocal, but honouring almost what we've already been saying, but honouring the fact that it's not always going to go smoothly, and delegating, I think that is underrated. We do have people around us, partners or family members, or some people do want to help, and we try to take on way too much just by ourselves. We can't do the work that we're here to do when it's just by ourselves, because it was never meant to be that way. We talk about the village. Well, we're not always blessed to have a bunch of family around us to create that, but we can make moves to go out there and find it. And what you see, especially through our sacred pregnancy retreats, it's one of the best things that I see women take away from there. It's not necessarily they're getting tools for a better birth or postpartum. What they're building are bonds. They're building sisterhood. They're building friendships with people who are going to be understanding exactly what they mean. And I think that's another one of the tools that we can put into our box for a smoother postpartum, is to really go out there and find the women that we need and ask for their help. We're going to give it back.
Yeah.
You never have to feel, as women, I don't feel like we don't like to take. We very much nurture. We want to give and give. But no, it's a cycle. We're going to be giving it back. Please take it when somebody offers it, you know?
Absolutely. This is what I was just going to bring up, is this ability. I would imagine at those retreats, I would imagine the hardest work for me personally as a participant at a retreat like that, like when I was going through my pregnancy, is the ability to open to receive, which is so feminine, and it's not something that is that at least I was brought up with. This just say yes, please, and open to receive that. It's like this patterning of like I have to work hard to deserve that, so I'll work and then receive. And sometimes, especially in that postpartum time, you need to just be like, no, I've done the work. I did, maybe it was that I gave birth a few months ago, but like I still need to receive more. I still am. What was that term? Binding the bones? I love that. Yeah. that really feels like, yeah, that's exactly what I needed. That's exactly what I want next time. I want more of that binding time, more of that like coming back to myself.
It was one of the most emotional things that I've ever experienced in my life when I had my sealing ceremony, 10 days postpartum with Hazel, because I was in that state of grief. But it was bizarre because I was in the most blissful time of my life. I'd given birth to an angel as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
I was sitting in this space at home just feeling very loved. But to have these women, I had very powerful women with me. One of them is a dear friend of mine who's a shaman. She's been like a mother to me. I had my Reiki master there and I had my partner performing the ceremony. The energy that was in that room, I could palpably feel myself closing, and the tears poured because I don't really want to be closed. What if I want another baby? It's not closing you off to another baby, but in my mind, that was a part of grief that was having to come up and out of me and then be hugged back together, you know?
Yeah.
So it was such a powerful ceremony to have received. And even giving that, we just did a sealing ceremony on Sunday for a lady who came to one of our retreats, and she was a surrogate. And to do that ceremony on her was mind-blowing. I mean, things that were being released in that ceremony, and you were hugging it back together. And then what I felt actually, so talking about nurturing myself and how I do it, when you're doing that kind of work and then you have to go back to a family, I had to literally go from there to come back home to a baby who was screaming for me and wired kids around the house, and like by Monday morning I was just shut down, you know. And it was beautiful to hold space for that, but I had to take a few days afterwards just to start to integrate everything and to come back to a state of being somewhat neutral again, you know, because it's not just when we're postpartum, just as women, we go through cycles internally and emotionally of being open and then closing back up a little bit again and open, and then it's just even with the moon, right? Doing this all the time, it's like a pulsing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for letting us in to your motherhood and to your wisdom and all the medicine that you're sharing today. I would encourage everyone, I know you're doing a lot of work in your community right now, but I'd encourage everyone to connect with you on Facebook, especially the mothers. It's so encouraging to watch you in your process, and it makes me always feel like I can do this. So, just got bit by a little bug or something. That's odd. A little bee just came. That's so strange.
A bee?
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
That's very strange. I just got stung as I was talking about you. A little bee medicine for us today. So, so thank you so much for being here. And I would encourage everyone to connect with you. I really, really love the energy that you're bringing to motherhood. I think it's very important work.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and we'll talk soon.
For having me.
You're so welcome.